USAA knows dynamic duos can save the day, like superheroes and sidekicks, or auto and home insurance. With USAA, you can bundle your auto and home and save up to 10%. Tap the banner to learn more and get a quote at usaa.com/bundle. Restrictions apply.
LifeLock, how can I help?
The IRS said I filed my return,
but I haven't.
1 in 4 tax-paying Americans has paid the price of identity fraud.
What do I do?
My refund, though.
I'm freaking out.
Don't worry, I can fix this.
LifeLock fixes identity theft guaranteed and gets your money back with up to $3 million in coverage.
I'm so relieved.
No problem. I'll be with you every step of the way.
1 in 4 was a fraud-paying American. Not anymore. Save up to 40% your first year. Visit LifeLock.com/podcast. Terms apply.
Come meet me at the Musial with Alan and Daniel. We'll talk about the Cardinals all night long. Everyone come gather round, listen to your favorite sound. We'll talk about the Cardinals all night long. We'll talk the games and all the rest, about the team that we love best. We'll talk about the Cardinals all night long. We're gonna talk about the Cardinals all night long.
Good evening. Welcome into another edition of Meet Me at Musial. I'm your host, Danny Shopto at C70. Alan Medlock still out coaching the baseball team. The Tulsa Hell Rangers have gotten off to a slow start this season, but hopefully that will turn around. So filling the co-host chair tonight is Dayn Perry. You know him from CBS Sports. You should know him from his Substack, Birdy Work. Dayn, how are you?
I'm good, Daniel. Good to be with you. Glad to be able to fill in, and I didn't realize I was replacing an actual baseball coach here.
Yeah, Alan's a high school baseball coach and athletic director, so he's got plenty of hats. And but his absence lets me talk to a lot of great people like you, so that is always a good thing as well.
Let's get rid of the legitimacy that he brings to the discussion. And
yeah. I hate it when he shows me up by knowing stuff, and it's
right.
Can't have that. Can't have that anymore.
None of that with me.
So how are things? How are things at CBS and how's the Substack going? Good.
Yeah, it's good. I'm just plugging along with it, and coming up with topics during spring training is sometimes a challenge, but I find myself really looking forward to the season for the first time in a couple of years, probably since going into 2023 season was the last time I really felt excited about a season. We know how that turned out, but that's a different discussion. And so, I'm looking forward to it, and I'm energized by what's going on, and I'm trying to keep expectations realistic, but that enthusiasm is going to come in handy when it comes to writing the newsletter during the season.
Yeah. You're coming into this with a different kind of excitement than you did in 23. So that helps, because we all have significantly different expectations for this team than we did, coming off of a playoff appearance and then having the ball out.
That's it. Yeah. I mean, it's like, I'm sure you can relate to not having this kind of dynamic in place as a Cardinals fan for really, living memory, maybe, so it's just a unique feeling, and excited about seeing some of these young players get onboarded and see what they can do, and see what the guys who have been there can do under this new development staff.
Yeah. And I've talked about this a couple of times, I think, and you can probably identify this, even if you go all the way back to the end of the Brewery days in the mid 90s, they were not good, but they didn't have this kind of, they were just not good. They didn't have a whole lot of, okay, this is potential. These are the guys that can about. There was Langford and Gilkey and all those kind of guys that you kind of hoped on a little bit, but it wasn't this whole complete focus on we're going to be good in a couple of years. It was just a kind of
it was just kind of existing, and that was when I was in college, surrounded by Braves fans, who were, of course, at the top of the industry in those days, and I had Greg Jeffrey's All-Star appearance to get me through, So I don't miss those days. I'm glad there is a sense of purpose to go along with what figures to be a significant number of losses.
Yeah, yeah. I know, and spring training. We're not supposed to take anything out of spring training. Absolutely nothing. Nothing
Right.
matters unless we want it to.
Yeah.
But has anything from this spring that you've seen changed your ideas about what might happen this year?
Yeah, this kind of gets into the duality of, analyzing the team on one hand, which you can relate to, and being a fan of the team on the other. I let myself buy into spring, or I let half of myself buy into it. You know what I mean? Just enjoy it. Just be an average fan and get carried away with it. Yeah. I mean, I like all this velocity that's been brought in. Weatherholt is, that fan part of me thinks, okay, yeah, 44 doubles, 14 OBP, rookie all-star, top 10 MVP balloting. He's ready.
Yeah.
The analyst side of me is not there yet, but I like balancing both halves of the brain when it comes to spring training. And yeah, I mean, I see no reason for pessimism. I'll put it that way. I like a lot of what's going on with this pitching staff right now, and Gorman's had his moments at the plate, and Joshua Baez is inspiring, and I would imagine your dumb fan half of the brain feels the same way.
Well, it's probably more than half, but I agree. I think that it's very easy when you see Dustin May come out throwing 99 that it's like, okay, this is good. This is great.
Yeah.
But it's, again, and for me, it's, I think Tony La Russa said you never fall in love too early or too late in spring. Try to keep that balance. And I know that the Cardinals violated that a lot in the last couple of years with Jordan Walker and probably Victor Scott. That they've probably gotten a little too absorbed. So I'm trying to hold back, but it is very, very difficult.
I think it's legitimate to seize upon the idea that the players have a plan in place. You know what I mean? It's like, you see, I sort of touched on this in the last newsletter, but some of these pitchers who have come from pitching forward organizations to the Cardinals are now doing different stuff under the Cardinals pitching brain trust, which I think has been very impressive thus far. They're seeing things that presumably these other really advanced pitching organizations didn't try. There's some experimentation going on. I read a quote by Lars Nootbaar the other day saying he shows up at Jupiter every morning with a specific plan in place for where he is in his recovery and what he's going to do that day. And it just inspires a lot of confidence, relative to, I think, kind of the Mozeliak tail end of his regime, where they got a little color by numbers, and it's good to see. I mean, that expanded staff, they talk about like how, wow, John Jay can actually focus on outfield defense and base running instead of doing all these other jobs that he had to do in spring training with the, understaffed with no field coordinators and coaches and that sort of thing. And same goes for, infield coaches and that sort of thing that can actually do, tailor their workday to what they're best at doing. It's just, there's a lot to be inspired about and a lot to be excited about when it comes to just the player development apparatus that's now in place.
Yeah. I think it was in Brian Walton's podcast this week with Kyle Reese that he said something to the effect, like there was one time recently, like there were 2 catchers and 5 coaches working with them. I mean, and that's, and that's just not what would have happened in the past. So to be able to, even if you're not revamping the strategy, which they obviously are, just being able to get the bodies on the field is such a huge difference from, the cutbacks that happened after COVID that never really came back.
Yeah, it's like the student faculty ratio that small colleges brag about. You know what I mean? Right. It's like you're not stuck in a survey course with 250 other students. And it's in my opinion that's a better way to learn.
Yeah, especially when one of those teachers is Yadier Molina too.
Right. Who knows a thing or two? Yeah,
a couple of things. Yeah. So, the conceit of this episode, and most people know when I do this, I don't plan an episode. So, this is a little bit more advanced than I'm used to. But Dayn, you about, I guess it was a couple weeks ago now, wrote 50 different questions you had about this season coming up, and we're just going to kind of randomly select some of them. But before we get into the random part, let's take your number 4 question, which was, will Ollie Marmol be offered a contract extension? We know the answer to that now. He got
Yeah.
his contract extension this week. What were your thoughts about that?
I thought it was perfectly fine. I don't see any reason to fire him. I don't see any reason to, well, not necessarily fire him, but I don't see any reason to let his contract expire and move on from him. I think he's got a, I think managers who survive tend to have one foot in, hard ass accountability, old school guy, and one foot in player friendly. It's sort of a mixed personality there, and they can sort of hit the gas on whichever side is needed at one time. And I think Marmol sort of fits that mold. I think he has a rapport with the younger players. He's fully on board with what the front office is doing, which is why he was hired by Musial in the first place to replace Mike Schilt. I think tactically, I don't think he's offensive. I think, a few intentional walks here and some bunts that but who knows whether that's the player going off script, But I think he handles a bullpen very well. I think he's helped execute that keep pitchers healthy plan very well. That worked so well last season for the Cardinals, and maybe works again this season. Who knows? And I just think he's more broadly, I think we overstate the importance of baseball managers. It's an important role, but it's not a head football coach. It's not a head basketball coach. It's more of a almost a middle manager type thing in the contemporary era anyway. And I think he fits that mold very well. And on another level, there are 10 vacancies this season, this offseason for managers. And that's, you're probably going to be selecting from the back end of that, considering where they are right now in terms of the competitive cycle. So I'm not sure it was, even looking toward next season, next offseason, I'm not sure it was the right time for a change in the dugout.
Yeah, because I know it's a little bit of an overstatement, but when you get to tactics, with all the information that's out there, they could almost put you and I in the dugout and be passable as managers. It really is about dealing with those, dealing with the people that are in the dugout, knowing when somebody needs a day off, knowing when somebody needs a kick in the butt and a pat on the back and all that kind of stuff. And Ollie hasn't had any problems with that. Tyler O'Neill might differ, but for the most part, he seems to have the clubhouse with him. And if that's rocking, then there's really, like you said, no reason to change.
Yeah, and he's dealt with some really difficult rosters. Last season was supposed to be unlimited runway, and well, no, it wasn't, because the roster is too crowded, especially in the infield. And he's really had to juggle playing time. He's had to, keep a block of somewhat vocal veterans happy on this side, and he's had to sort of fill a leadership void that Arenado and Goldschmidt, for all their merits, were kind of reluctant to fill. And it's the dynamic and the roster in terms of how you implement it and how you deploy those players has been really difficult for him. And I think that having the obvious paths to playing time for these younger guys this season and the mandate to see what they can do is finally able to be implemented, thanks to those trades that Bloom was able to make, and that's going to benefit Marmol.
Yeah, and it's going to be interesting, and I can't remember. I think it was maybe Talking About Birds that brought up the point that I think is very interesting. We haven't really seen Ollie Marmol manage when he didn't have to win. I guess and I don't want to say it that way, because obviously he's going to try to, but when development really takes the front of this, where you might not use JoJo Romero on one night because you need to see if Matt Swanson can do that kind of job.
Yeah, right.
Right. So I think that's going to be very interesting to see what decisions, and again, granted, it's in relation with the front office, but what decisions does he make that we're like, okay, we can see that's a development issue, not a we've got to win tonight issue.
Yeah. Yeah. And that's, wins and losses are not the standard right now.
Right.
And really can't be last season either, and so if you're outraged by this, you're probably applying the wrong standard to Marmol in the here and now. And, sure, if they win, 45 games this season, you may see even with time left on that contract, maybe you do see some kind of shake up there. But within reason, wins and losses are not the standard this season. So everybody should bear that in mind.
Yeah. All right. Next question, number 27.
Oh,
I know
boy.
you've got all these memorized, but
Yes,
I'll read them.
yes.
I'll read them for
Got my
the
flashcards.
audience at home, just in case. Will Kyle Leahy win the final spot in the rotation, or will someone like Hunter Dobbins, Richard Fitz, or even Quentin Matthews claim it? We've seen some spring training results. We've seen Leahy kind of struggle a little bit.
Mm-hmm.
Again, not trying to get too much into what is going on in spring, but what do you think right there?
I kind of right now I think Fitz is really looking like he's going to crack that rotation. What I wonder at this point is if it's going to be a 6-man rotation because of there's going to be a lot of youth in that rotation. Dustin May, injury history there to keep in mind. Libator is probably in for another step up in terms of innings, but it's always worth the trouble he has maintaining velocity from start to start sometimes. Maybe you need that extra rest for him built in. So I think, given the youth and some of the injury concerns with May, I think a 6-man rotation might be how they started in the early season. Of course, as we know, the Cardinals put a lot of emphasis on those early weeks in terms of that being a sort of a health danger spot for pitchers. Mm-hmm. So it wouldn't surprise me at all if we get all those guys, those 5 guys, including Leahy, plus Fitz. Now, I'm intrigued by Quinn Matthews yesterday, the way he looked, but I think he's ticketed back to AAA just to try to master that level following his struggles last year and his injuries last year. And, he's also not on the 40-player roster, so that's another consideration. So I think we're going to get a 6-man with Fitz. Maybe Leahy drops to the 6th spot. I don't know, but we'll see. But I think Fitz is going to crack that rotation.
He's definitely made an impact more than I expected.
Let me interrupt myself here. We'll interrupt you and say that it's March 6th. So, here I'm declaring Fitz is going to make the rotation, but it's March 6th. So,
it's okay.
Anyway,
After
nobody's
going to go. Yeah. Nobody's coming back to this on in April and saying, "Oh, you were wrong." Nobody.
Yeah.
It's okay. But yeah, I think that you're right. I mean, because of what we know, the little bit of data that we have on Fitz, and especially a little bit because he's only been in the organization for about 5 seconds. He's made a quite an impression. And when everything is up for grabs like this in a year where you don't necessarily have to get the best player, you want to get the guy that, is showing the most. Again, he could come out and give up 7 runs in, I think he's in one of the split squad games on Monday or something. But, and maybe we take it down a notch. But, right now, with the velocity that he's shown, that seems to be really something they're looking for.
Yeah. The gas that Dustin May was throwing and velocity's been a problem for the Cardinals in recent seasons. We know that, particularly in the rotation, not so much in the bullpen, but May and Fitz, Leahy can bring the fastball too. So you kind of got to like the change that trio would provide.
Yeah. Yeah. And talking about the 6-man rotation, that's been bandied about for 2 or 3 years, this idea the Cardinals will, because they had so many starters or whatever, that's been a little bit, but still there's some idea that they would start 6 and they never really did. But it feels like with this new regime and the new idea of development and the difference on what this team needs to do this year, that a 6-man rotation really does sound plausible.
Yeah, and it's also another spot for a young guy to take some turns and see if he's a long-term fixture in that rotation, And, we don't know whether McGreevy and Palante or even Libator, we don't know whether they are 5 years from now, they're going to be in the Cardinals rotation, So they're still proving grounds in the rotation. And I think this gives another spot, another slot that can be evaluated long-term.
Yeah. All right, let's shift gears. It is number 15, which is, will Victor Scott II's swing changes lead to improved on-base skills? What do you think?
I don't know. I don't
Anytime.
know. I have some concerns about his offensive ceiling. Now he is the kind of guy whose bar at the plate is lower because he is an elite fielder and elite base runner.
Mhm.
He's going to have that sort of, you know, two war foundation, even if he is absolutely terrible at the plate, you know what I mean? And can build off that to really enhance his value. And in turn, we don't need power from Vic Scott. We need on base. We need a higher walk rate. His walk rate isn't bad considering he's not much of a threat at the plate. So he's not getting pitched around. But he does need to improve the ball in play component of his on base percentage. That he needs to hit for higher average. And that's just something that needs to happen. And there's a lot of paths to that. I think he's a little. I think he probably tries to bunt too often, but he can have that be part of his arsenal. But just some nice line drives over the infield are what we need to see out of Vic Scott. Will he get there? I don't know. There's a lot of swing and misses in his game for a guy without a whole lot of power. So I don't want to say I'm a Vic Scott skeptic because he is so good at the other phases of the game, but I'm taking a wait and see on his bat.
Yeah. Yeah, I have been a little bit, and I guess maybe because nowadays we're a little bit reactionary whenever the word bunt is said.
Yeah.
But I have been a little bit surprised at how much that has been a focus, not for him. I mean, I think it's him idea, but like Bloom and Marmol and all them are really, really wanting him to, work on that. Granted, it's a great skill to have, especially with his speed, but it's also very, very, a low percentage gamble at times. So I've just been a little bit surprised that the emphasis has been so much there. Like Derek Gould's right fielder says that, yesterday he got into the backfields and was running bunt simulations, with the minor leaguers.
Yeah.
So I was surprised at that.
Yeah. I mean, I guess there is a game theory aspect to it where you want him to think want those corner infielders to constantly be sweating the possibility of a bunt, but you don't actually have to do it that much. But, so I just think I wish he would be a little more judicious with his bunt attempts, and because he has potential to make it a weapon. But I think if you overexpose yourself to it, then it's just going to hurt your offensive game.
Yeah. I mean, I guess best case scenario is he bunts a lot early. People start coming in, and then he starts swinging away and dropping it over the, third base, first base, whatever.
There you go.
But we'll see how that goes.
Yeah.
All right. Well, the next question was 30, but it was talking about the 6-man rotation. So we've already seen ourselves figure that out. So next question is number 7. In order to fully tap into his excellent raw power, Nolan Gorman probably needs to push his K percentage and whiff rate south of 30%. Will he do that in his age 26 season and after more than 1,500 plate appearances in the majors?
My uninformed prediction, well, I don't want to say uninformed, but barely informed prediction is that he's going to get one of those. He's going to improve. And I think if I had to guess, I think he's going to get that whiff rate down. I think he can drive his K rate down further, but I just don't know if he has it in him to get below 30%. And I think he becomes playable this season because of his power. A solid regular. I don't know that I foresee the swing and miss issues are just so kind of ingrained in him. Maybe there's a Joshua Baez turnaround, for him that can be done. But I have my doubts after, like we said, all those plate appearances at the highest level. I think he takes the next step to being playable regular, not going to be an all-star, that sort of thing. So that's sort of my moderated expectations for Gorman this season.
Yeah, and you've been on the Gorman bandwagon for a long time, so I know you followed him along. But and so I'm interested. I think Gorman. It's either him or Walker is probably the most important person on this team. To maybe take that step, because if both of them struggle, it's a problem. But if just even one of those guys gets going, the development speeds up a lot.
Yeah, if Gorman and Walker take the next step this season, and a lot of other, and some other good things happen. I mean, I think it opens up a lot more near-term possibilities. Are we keeping Newt Barr? Are we keeping Dustin May if he's a weapon, and potentially looking to extend him? If those things don't happen, then is the Weatherholt generation the next long-term core, and then Gorman and Walker are probably not part of that. So I think there's a lot riding on those two guys' successes, as you say.
And it probably should be pointed out, I don't know what it means because of spring, but 2 home runs, only 2 strikeouts, 1 walk this spring. Now, granted, he only has 3 hits too, so if he's hitting the ball, it's going out. But he's at least hitting the ball.
Yeah,
I mean, that's
yeah.
that.
I mean, that's yeah, and I mean, yeah, he's been a guy I've noticed this spring, and I just when he lays into one, it's hard not to dream on it, So
Yeah.
maybe he can get that contact in check.
It is probably notable also that he is tied for 3rd in at bats in the spring, and number 2 is Jordan Walker. So again, I think it's just them making sure that those guys get all the help they can to get on track. Not a question you had, but you mentioned Dustin May there, and how when it comes to the trade deadline, expectation is if he's good enough, they're going to trade him. But what if the Cardinals, and it's an interesting speculation for me. What if they're in that wild card hunt somewhere in that range? Maybe they have that last spot. Maybe they're real close to it. Whatever the case may be. Does Heimblum still trade Dustin May, assuming he's having a good year?
I think that would play pretty poorly at a time when you're trying to win fans back, because of the decline in attendance and trying to sell these, direct consumer subscriptions to watch games. I think that would play pretty poorly. Part of me wonders if, say, the Cardinals are in contention, which means a lot of things with a lot of young players are going well, and May is looking like a revived near ace. I wonder if there's a conversation a couple weeks before the deadline. It's like, hey, what is your openness toward considering an extension? And if that sort of informs the how the deadline goes. But I just think I don't know. I just think that I think that would play pretty poorly, and I think you keep him. You try to contend, and if there's no possibility of extension, then you make that qualifying offer, maybe accepts it, and you just take your draft pick if that happens. But I think I think that would be unpopular to the detriment of the organization to do that if they're contending.
I think that's legitimate. I did. What makes me think about it is, Heimblum's kind of famous quote, I guess now, of "We will sacrifice short term, for the long term."
Yeah,
and I guess it really depends on how they're contending, right? If they're contending because they're playing at 10 games over 500, then sure, okay. But if they're contending because the rest of the league is terrible and they're still just hanging around there, it's this idea that we still need pieces, and this is the best way to get those pieces. So
that's a good point. Yeah, and that should be part of the discussion, and as should if Quinn Matthews is shoving at AAA by the deadline, that makes it more palatable. If Liam Doyle and is thriving at AA and knocking on the door of Memphis, so that makes all that tolerable, if it comes down to a May trade. Yeah, it's a separate discussion if the Cardinals are, as you mentioned, 10 games over 500 or just benefiting from an exceptionally low bar for the 3rd wildcard spot.
Yeah. I did think it was interesting that Dustin May, and of course, granted, I don't know what else you're going to say, but that there was a quote of his that he didn't, he's not looking forward to. He's not looking at the trade deadline. He's, he didn't come here just to build his stock and then be ready to flip. Granted, if he gets a chance to go to a World Series contender, he'll say it was great being in St. Louis, but I'm fine.
Right.
But it was interesting because I wondered about that. With some of these, Urias and Stanek and all these kind of guys, are they coming in because they really want to be here, or are they coming in because they didn't have any other options, or are they coming in because this is a good place to build up and then they can get flipped?
Yeah, I mean, I don't have anything to base this on, but you do have to wonder if May uh, liked the pitching programs in place,
Hmm.
like the brain
Hmm.
trust that's there, like the
Yeah.
resources that are finally in place, and maybe compared to some other offers he had. Now, he signed a 1-year deal. Obviously, he was not a hot commodity this offseason,
Hmm.
but he was a dude not too long ago, you
Right.
know, and and there are very specific non-arm reasons why he, has not been himself the last couple of years and that kind of thing. So, he's not a scrap heap guy necessarily. So I think it says something that he chose the Cardinals.
Yeah, and we've heard how intrigued he was about the fact that the Cardinals didn't have anybody hurt last year, and the methods that they took to keep the pitching staff
Right,
healthy.
right.
And the fact being one of those is the fact that he's just now making his first start. What yesterday?
Yeah.
Instead of 2 or 3. What I guess Liebertor's made at least two probably since
Hmm.
in that time period. So it is interesting, and I think that's going to be a really interesting. I don't remember if it's one of your questions. Maybe we'll get to it, but it's going to be very interesting to see how the Cardinals are able to manage if they're able to manage injuries, if they found something, or if last year was just a fluke.
Hmm. Yeah, yeah. I mean, I think there's probably an upper bound on
Mhm.
health that the Cardinals reached last season. So I'm not optimistic it's going to be repeatable. But
Right.
that doesn't mean they're not doing things well in that front. That doesn't mean they're not onto something that a lot of the rest of the league isn't yet.
Yeah. Yeah. All right. Question 35. Does catcher Pedro Pages, easy for me to say, a skilled defender outside of blocking pitches, have a higher gear at the plate at age 27? It feels like we're going to get a lot of a chance to find out, right? It really feels like he's going to be the starting catcher for a while.
Yeah, that's sort of the vibe I get. And I think, even if Ivan Herrera's arm proves capable of doing a better job of controlling the running game, I think he's a part timer back there. I don't think they want to, I don't know. I think I wonder if they suspect it'll drain his bat if he's, catching 130 games,
Mhm. Mhm.
And but Pies, the defensive skills are praised and with some legitimacy, and but the way he has hit thus far as a major leaguer is backup catcher production.
Right.
You need a little more than that, regardless of his other merits. And I think he could occasionally get into one. He had double figures in home runs last season, I believe, and didn't you know I, certainly not a qualifying number of plate appearances, so he can lay into one every now and then. But he can't get on base, and that's something that needs to change. And is there a path to that? Will some of the more conspicuous cases about working on their swings and their offensive games and that kind of thing, is this also being done with Pages in the background? Probably so. I can't imagine they're ignoring him.
Right.
So yeah, maybe I'll be curious to see if that manifests itself in any improvement at the plate this season at a level that suggests it's sustainable. Because that could really change the catcher outlook long term.
Yeah. I mean, if Pages hits, Pozo's Memphis, right?
Yeah,
I mean, the idea that he's backing up Burleson some now too probably helps
yeah,
him stay on that. Um, but I feel like right now there's going to be a lot of situations where, Pages is going to get pulled in the late innings for if his at bat comes up, and they'll go with Pozo and then see if he can get the hit and then let him catch the
yeah.
eighth and ninth.
I'm guilty of this first and foremost, but I feel like in a lot of these discussions about the long term catching situation, we're kind of ignoring Pages.
Yeah.
And we just kind of assume he's a placeholder, and if he doesn't start hitting, he is. But
Right.
you know, he's 27. I mean, it's not unheard of that he could find a new gear at that level, particularly with all the new resources in place and the tech and the coaching and the field coordinators and all those eyes on him and
Mhm.
brains on him and that sort of thing. So that's sort of a, I think, overlooked subplot of this season.
it's possible. I mean, we talk so much about all the catching depth that the Cardinals have, all these guys that are very intriguing, Crooks and Bernal and Rodriguez and all these that are coming up and down the ladder. Paul Hayes may be there longer than any of them. He just may
Yeah.
be the backup the whole entire time.
Right. Yeah.
Because you're right.
Yeah.
I think he's an ideal backup.
Yeah.
Maybe top level backup.
Yeah.
He just unfortunately is going to start a lot more than.
Yeah. I mean, he's good defense, can run into a misplaced fastball every now and then. That's good backup stuff, but need to see if he can become more than that.
Number 26, on the matter of tweaked pitch mixes, will the kick change offerings being cultivated by Andre Palante and Kyle Leahy help their cause in their rotation? I don't know what has been the case this spring, but so far things have looked pretty good for Andre Palante.
Yeah, and he's always been intriguing with that, just his weird movement profile and his, we haven't really seen the velocity this spring, but he can get it up in the mid 90s, and the way, at least before last season, he just smothered left-handed batters, and he's just an intriguing pitcher with a strong ground ball tendencies. And I think if he's able to develop that, that off speed from his pronator wrist profile, which it's really hard to develop a changeup when you're that kind of pitcher. I think that's what the kick change is for. And if he's able to do that and he's able to make it a permanent part of his repertoire, then that may make him a fixture. Because this is this is a pivotal year for him after last year's struggles.
Oh yeah, I mean, yeah, he can't do that again.
Pivotal spring for him, for that matter. Yeah.
Because that's, I think when you talk to most knowledgeable Cardinal fans, and or at least people that are paying attention, I guess, more than just the casual people, going into spring, when you made your 5-man rotation out, most everybody had Palante out of it, right? Because of the struggles that he had last year and the concerns. So for him to, I mean, granted, a 6-man rotation does help him out a lot, but you're right. He's got to make, and so far, 2 starts, 5 innings, take it for whatever it's worth, but he has at least shown that he's not going to get blown up every time.
Yeah. Yeah. He's just, he's not my favorite pitcher to watch in some of the same ways that Dakota Hudson was not my favorite pitcher to watch. Just, nibbling and deep counts and, death by 1,000 cuts losses sometimes and that kind of thing. But that doesn't mean he can't be a useful part of that rotation.
Will Nelson Velasquez and his power potential crack the roster as a spring NRI and be the right-handed outfield bat they need for the upcoming season? He's had a good spring, but I still don't hear his name a whole lot.
Yeah, it does seem like he's kind of sort of a not one of the clubhouse leaders, if you will, for that position battle. And you're right. It's his name is not come up much, and I kind of feel like the hurdle of getting him onto the 40-man, I think, is potentially significant, depending on how the rest of the spring plays out. And I just, as intrigued as I am by his power potential, I'm not sure it happens. I feel like, until Newbar is ready to go, I feel like Sajasi or Fermin is going to be the guy left. I suppose we'll see. But Velasquez, for an organization star for power, he's intriguing, and I wonder if they'll find a path to keeping him within the organization, even if he doesn't crack the roster.
Yeah, I would guess. Hopefully, he can go to Memphis, but it does feel like the signing of Ramon Urias kind of put the
that as well.
Nail in the coffin there. Yeah, because it's very difficult to figure out how you make this roster work. It's hard enough to figure out how do you make the roster work without adding him in. Especially with it does look like Fermin and Sajasi are just going to both be these, floating utility infield, outfield, water boy, whatever they need them to be. Having 2 of those kind of guys on the rotation on the roster is a little different. I mean, I guess it's good for flexibility, but it's a little bit strange to have that kind of uncertainty.
Yeah. It's the bench is, going to be interesting to see I mean, potentially good, but it's how they sort it out is going to be interesting.
All right. 43. Will outfield prospect Joshua Baez sustain the gains that he got in 25 and reach St. Louis this season?
Yeah, I do think we'll see him in St. Louis this season. Obviously, it would be highly unexpected if he cracks the opening day roster or anything like that. But I think he will make it there. He took such a huge step forward in Memphis, in Springfield last season that they want to see him capitalize on that in Memphis. Can he? He almost halved his strikeout rate while not sacrificing production. In fact, improving production, and that's a huge developmental win for this new front office, because it was, I know this is technically Bloom's first season, but it was his guys who got that out of Baez. And so yeah, hot start in Memphis. I think he's in St. Louis in the event of a Nootbaar trade or an injury, or not that any of us want this, but a terrible first half from Jordan Walker that sort of changes his arc. And I'm very bullish on Baez. He's, as you mentioned, he's looked good in spring. Had it hit a laser today. This would be a really positive development for the organization, considering how the difficult time they've had in developing outfielders. And he's probably the one I'm most excited about following in the minors this season. If I had to identify one prospect I'm really amped about following the season, it's him.
Yeah, it is going to be very interesting because we have so often seen in majors or minors a guy that has the great year and then can't sustain it. And Baez has all the tools to do it. It's not that was any sort of fluke or anything like that.
Yeah.
But you just it's Missouri, the Show Me State. You've got to show them that they can do it more than once. And you're right. If he has a good first half in Memphis, I think that's then maybe you see Nathan Church getting demoted back to Memphis and letting him at least get some run, because it feels like you can't just let him sit down there. And I don't think that's what the Cardinals want to do anymore. We've seen them do that in the past, but with the way this team is now, if they think he's ready for the major leagues and he can develop in the major leagues, then I think that's where they want him to be.
Yeah, and he's not going to be rushed. We know that. I mean, Bloom has kind of hinted that he's going to, promote conservatively, and I think, the lessons of Jordan Walker are right there for us to see. So I think we can have a lot of confidence that most of these guys are going to be promoted after we think they should be, which is probably a good thing.
Yeah, and they're not going to be promoted because they need somebody in that spot.
Right.
They're being promoted because they're ready.
You're not going to see Joshua Baez fourth outfielder because somebody got hurt. Yeah.
Right. All right, number 20. How much did Masyn Winn's knee injury harm his production at the plate last season? Now that he's been repaired, will he have his best season yet with a bat in 26? I'm very interested to see this because I really feel like at least his power was sapped by that knee, if nothing else. And I'm amazed how well he played shortstop on it. But there were times where he could still slap the ball around, but you knew that there was more there if he was just healthy.
Yeah, and he was a useful hitter as a rookie in 2024. Or did he exhaust his status in 2023? I can't remember.
No, he was just short of it. I think. He was just short.
Yeah, that's right. Because I remember okay. So yeah, he was a useful hitter. I mean, if you can get that, 15 homers and above average park adjusted OPS out of a frontline defensive shortstop, that's a win. That's a foundation for a really good player. And yeah, I have to feel like that knee had something to do with his struggles last season when he just, a lot of balls died in the outfield off his bat. And, the strikeouts crept up, the strikeout rate that is. And, and I think that surely that had something to do with it. And
Yeah.
and it's just the natural progression, the natural development is too. As he moves toward what should be his prime seasons, taking a step forward with the bat while remaining, in my opinion, the best defensive shortstop in the National League. You're talking all star, so maybe that's his 2026.
Yeah. I mean, the game's different and all that, but
Hmm.
his defense plus offense is reminiscent of Ozzy's, just because
Hmm.
Ozzy struggled at the bat
Yeah, right.
at the time, especially till he developed it. Then, of course, in '87 should have been
Yeah,
MVP.
yes, he should have.
Yes, I know I'm preaching to the choir there. I'm not gonna,
Yeah.
not gonna get any pushback at that one at all. But yeah, there was one game last year I remember watching, and Winn was up, and he drove a ball to left that off the bat I felt like, oh, he's home run, and
Yeah,
it died like halfway in the outfield. I think it was a sac fly. It worked out, but
yeah,
you just knew that if he was 100%, that
yeah,
ball was different.
yeah,
So.
yeah.
And yeah, hopefully that's the case. But and again, he's probably going to make more than 3 errors this year, but he's still, man, he's just still something special to watch.
And he's just great television.
Yeah.
He's just when he uncorks it. I mean, I his defensive metrics are obviously exceptionally strong, but just
Mhm.
he made so many with that arm, turned so many double plays that I'm not sure how many other shortstops do when he
Yeah.
just nipped the runner, and yeah,
Yeah.
just really really fun player.
Yeah. And he's got a little, he's got that flash to him,
Yeah, yeah.
blowing finger guns and all that kind of stuff.
Oh
So,
yeah, yeah.
it's always good. I always felt like if he and Walker and Scott could really get going at the same time, that personality would just be amazing for for a Cardinals team that has that traditional history of being boring, and
Yeah,
then
right. Yeah, absolutely.
to have that
Yeah,
kind of sporadic, the kind of fun players out there.
yeah.
And Weatherholt may be that kind of play, a different type, different style, but he seems to
Mhm.
have a bit of a personality on him as well.
Yeah, he does, and that's those vibes. The potential for them is another reason I'm excited about this season, just to watch and just to see some on-field moments and see some enthusiasm and see some guys having fun playing ball.
All right, number 11. Will Lars Nootbaar produce at the plate coming off surgery with both heels? I've been I don't know. I shouldn't have been, but given the when he had the surgery, I've been a little bit surprised that he's still not back to where he can at least take some at bats yet.
Yeah, yeah, but I've tried to wrap my head around surgery on both heels, like what that would be
Sure.
like, as a
Yeah.
patient,
Yeah.
and that has to be a struggle to come back from,
Mhm.
because I would think, and I'm wandering way out of my depth here, but I would think having both heels like that at the same time might limit what you can do in terms of rehabilitation, and I don't know, but
Yeah.
so it's just yeah, but it's just both at the same time. I still, man, it's a strange turn of events, but I he still had reasonably good batted ball metrics last season,
Mhm.
despite all that going on. Pretty, if you dial up his StatCast page, you're probably going to see some red in there. Uh, so I do think he produces on a rate basis this season. I think he will put up some numbers. Now, health is always the question with him.
Mhm.
Is there any risk of recurrence with this, or is it permanently fixed? I have no idea. Will some of those other soft tissue issues that he's had in the past crop up? I don't know, but I think we'll see a rebound in terms of top line production on a rate basis from him.
I hope so. I feel like I don't know that he's ever going to hit the levels that people really kind of projected for him because of his
Yeah.
underlying metrics. There was
Mhm.
this idea that, it's not there, but it's all in the
Yeah.
in the metrics. It'll come out, and I think
Any minute
some of
now.
that
Yeah.
right,
Yeah.
right, yeah.
Yeah.
Feels like maybe we've heard this before,
Yeah.
I think that I think he'll get to that spot where he can be a valuable player, which then means,
Mhm.
is he still here at the end of the
Yeah.
year if he's able to do that? And that's a real good question too.
I do. based on nothing other than speculation and some reporting from Gould and that sort of thing. I do feel like he'll be traded, uh, unless he's just doesn't recover and or is unplayably bad and that sort of thing, which I don't see either being likely. But I do feel like he'll be moved. But again, it kind of brings back to the Dustin May question. If Newbar's really cranking and they're within range of playoff position and on pace for high 80s 90 wins, then I don't know, how do you part with them?
It would be difficult. You're
Yeah,
right, and
especially since it's not his walk year. He's got
right.
remaining years of control. So yeah.
But then and then it does feel like one of those things that like kind of like Brendan Donovan, you can just wait till the off season,
Right. That's
and do that.
probably how they'd play it. Yeah.
Probably.
Yeah.
But all right, with the new front office in place, this is number 46. With the new front office in place and the new youth movement in full effect, will attendance at Busch Stadium enjoy any kind of rebound? I feel like $29 for unlimited concessions might help.
Yeah, that's a good deal. Yeah, that is a really good deal. Yeah, I do. I think the concessions part of that is clutch. Yeah.
I mean,
Yeah.
it's like 2 hot dogs, right? I mean,
Yeah.
pretty much. So,
And that's like, even if the baseball is bad, we get, unlimited concessions, So yeah, I feel like there'll be a rebound. Whether it's a dead cat bounce or whether it's, legit expression of revived enthusiasm, I don't know. But I can't imagine it getting worse than it did last season. But I think, is there a Mozeliak fatigue effect? I don't know, maybe. And maybe this, maybe the turnover in the front office and the arrival of Weatherholt and that sort of thing is going to draw people in. So I do think there'll be some improvement. We're not going to see vintage Busch with 3 million fans, I don't think, but I do think we'll see some improvement, which they desperately need considering the loss of local television revenues they're facing.
Yeah, I mean that hit being down about a quarter of what it was 2 or 3
Yeah.
years ago.
Yeah.
Is significant, and it's in an organization that has always, even at the height of their TV contracts, been very reliant on people coming to the stadium. And it helps them in the fact that they have this reach through half the country, where people from down here or from Iowa or something are going to make their trip to Busch Stadium no matter what the team's like, just because they want to go to a ball game.
Yeah.
But getting those people in St. Louis to come on a regular basis is really the key. And
right.
I think that, there was some discontent with how everything was going and pick a lane and all that kind of stuff and I'm not going to go back to till they figure out what they're going to do. Now that they figured out what they're going to do, I do think there'll be a lot of these people that are coming back to it and are willing to see, like you say, some exciting ball players, even if the results aren't great.
Yeah. Yeah. I do feel like there will be revived enthusiasm enough to at least pick it up somewhat.
All right. 2 more questions, and neither one of them are on your list. One, is there anybody that we haven't really discussed tonight that you think we should talk about, or somebody that's maybe caught your eye in the spring?
I remain intrigued by, well, we've sort of mentioned it, but I remain intrigued by Jose Fermin. And I just, I wonder if his contact skills give him an edge over Sajasi for that outfield role. And his flexibility, his bat to ball skills. I just wonder if he's in for a bigger role than maybe I'm anticipating. Maybe even post Newbar return. I mean, I wonder if he's kind of the heavily used guy. And Sajasi does have I think, more power to tap into, but I think Fermin has a more impressive recent record of performance offensively than Sajasi does. So I wonder if he's going to end up a more important player than I'm anticipating.
I've been a little bit surprised over the last 2 or 3 years at how less of an attention that Fermin gets from this organization. It's kind of like they kind
Yeah.
of shunned him off into this. And well, you're not, because he can play shortstop. He's not Masyn
You're
Winn,
right.
but he can play shortstop. He can play second. He can do some of these things, and he can hit.
Yeah.
And so I've
Yeah.
been very surprised that they haven't more fully committed to him. But now that he has no options left, maybe
Right.
that will do it. Because I mean, if nothing else, when it comes to this roster crunch, and it will be one when Lars Newbar is healthy, it may be that Thomas DeJacy gets the short end of the stick just because he can go to Memphis.
Yeah. Yeah. And yeah, I mean, I think Fermin has real potential to be a useful major leaguer. I don't see him as an all-star regular or anything like that, but I think he can be a guy that helps you win in a variety of ways. And I'd like to see him get some really consistent run at the highest level with St. Louis.
He feels to me like the guy that has like a 12-year career because he plays with like 8 different teams, right? He's always helpful. He's always the guy that off the bench you'd like to have, but you're not necessarily wanting him to play 162 as a starter. But he's, the teams that are good have players like Jose Fermin on their bench.
Yeah. Yeah. He is every roster needs one of those guys, and the good rosters have good players like that, as opposed to just a sort of jack of all trades who puts up a 600 OPS. You know what I mean?
Right. Yeah.
So yeah, I'm intrigued by Fermin.
All right, final one is the same one that I have been asking everybody through this run of guests, and it is: if there's one person at all that you're following all year long, whether it's professionally, whether it's just a personal fan thing, whether it's a great story. However, if there's one person you're focused on in 2026, who is that?
I mean, I hate to give the obvious answer, but I'm so all in on Weatherholt that he's going to be the guy I perk up. I mean, this is just this is tradition for me. Whenever the top prospect in the organization arrives, it's sort of appointment viewing when he's at the plate or on the mound, and Weatherholtz is the most excited I've been about a prospect in a long time, because guys within the industry have told me that they simply could not believe he fell that far, and a lot of guys say, if you could do it over, knowing what we know now, yeah, Connor Griffin probably goes first, but Weatherholt is right there, and should never have fallen that far. And I'm just the energy he brings to the plate, just his approach, his swing, the potential he has to be one of these gap power, over the fence, high average, plate disciplined guys who are just so rare is just really intriguing to me, and I'm going to watch every second of his 2026.
We probably haven't had a prospect that rose this fast since Ankiel.
Yeah. I mean, for all, I think we all kind of suspected that Jordan Walker was being pushed a bit, but the last guy we felt like, yeah, okay, this guy, I mean, Ankiel. And that was I'll still remember that start in Montreal when I thought, my gosh, we got Steve Carlton, I mean, and so this is, I'm just really excited about Weatherholt. Yeah. Watching Weatherholt get to work this season.
Yeah, it's gonna be fun. I do like that the front office isn't like, I mean, they haven't said he's going to make the roster, but they haven't said, hey, he has to do this or that, or they've accepted he's probably going to be on the roster.
They can't fight the vibes at this point,
right? Yeah. And again, it's a different front office, right? I mean, a different approach. Yeah. It would be very. I'm sure John Mozeliak would be putting him on the roster as well, but it's a little bit more of a question mark if he would have.
Yeah. It's you do wonder that. You wonder how differently it would go. But I think I mean, he's 23, college, major conference college player, so, and he's thrived at higher rungs of the minors. So yeah, let's do it.
Yeah. And what's crazy is he won't be the youngest player on the team.
Right. That is true. Yeah. That is true. Yeah.
Dayn, it is
Yeah.
always a great time to talk with you. If people aren't subscribed to Birdy Work, they should be. Go to birdywork.substack.com. It's very inexpensive and you get great stuff every week. So do that. Anything else you want to plug while you're here?
Nah, that's it, man. I appreciate you having me on. It's always good talking cards with you.
Always fun. Next week we have Ben Clemens. I think he's going to finish his tour of the Cardinal podcast with us. But until then, for Dayn, I'm Daniel. Good night.
It's amazing, Jack. This game of baseball, you could not write. Well, he comes back out now and takes his stuff. You can't write scripts like we see day in and day out, can you?